So I think you both are touching on why the physical aspect has become um so associated with yoga so much here in the West. But why do you think the spiritual part has gotten lost or pushed to the back? Like for me, I'm curious about when I talk about yoga as a spiritual practice, most people are like, huh, thought it was just a yoga class. Like, how come, why do you think that spiritual part has gotten separated, or we don't know that that part even exists when we're talking about yoga?
We're living
I
in
mean,
a society that has a separation of church and state. So I always go back. My son got to visit Bali some years ago, and he said to me, Mom, the greatest uh, impact that he felt there was that everything was devotion,
Mm, mhm,
every aspect of their lives, from work to cooking to interacting with one another. It was all about devotion.
mhm,
And we here live in a society that there's a separation of church and state.
mm,
So with that separation of church and state, and then goes of everyone individually can do what they want to do. But if you don't have what that has done to, in my perspective, is that it has dishonored spirituality and spiritual practices and set us up one against the other. So then I'm in my little silo practicing Catholicism or Judaism or Christianity or Islam or Hinduism. So we're in our silos, but we can't have an open conversation about that because in school, unless I'm going to a Catholic school or whatever within your
mm,
denomination or
mhm.
whatever you're studying, but there is no real communal conversation around spirituality.
so I think this is really important in a pluralistic society that, like, the reason why we have a separation of church and state is so that especially minority religions have the freedom to practice their religion without, the church having dominion over them, like happens in other countries where church and state are not separated. The problem that happens then is that there is no interfaith dialogue. It's like, okay, well, when we're in community, then everything is secular. And then you go off into your corner and you go off into your corner and you have your private religious life. And rather than can we see the commonality, the shared understanding, how all of our traditions are aligned or learn from each other. And I think yoga, because it happens to come out of a specific cultural context,
Mhm.
it comes from ancient India. Honestly, it comes from pre-Hinduism. Like Hinduism didn't even exist when yoga came up as a philosophy. But because India is a minority Hindu country, and that's where yoga comes from, people in the West have a hard time separating the culture from the religion because, as Charlene is saying, there is so much devotion in daily life there. And so it can be difficult to tease apart, okay, well, these are cultural traditions, this is religiosity, and then there's philosophy and there's spirituality. And so all of it can seem very uncomfortable in a secular society or in a different religious tradition. Like, somehow this, because it's different from what I understand, it comes from a different cultural tradition. And those people over there practice this religion that is not the same as mine. It must not be okay.
Mm.
Rather than looking for actually where is the alignment? Where are the understandings, the perspectives that we have in common? And to Charlene's point, there are practices in yoga that are similar to practices that are common across every faith tradition.
Can you